Value Group was founded in 1981 by Steven Gottschalk and is also a transport and logistics group. It was listed on the JSE in 1998 and has a market cap of 1 billion rand, a price to earnings ratio of 7.4 and a dividend yield of 4.2%. Looking at Value Group, full-year results out now recently. It's looking at revenue up 13%. We had a dividend of 17%. Up 17%.
So this stock is really the purest supply chain exposure that you can get. All the other stocks we've spoken about, supply chain is only 1% of the total operations. And I think it's a small business, it's about a billion market cap, but I think it's a very nice little business. The return on equity is high, it's around upper teens, 20%. The stock price has performed nicely, pretty much the same as all the others, but still good. And I think that it's not expensive. I mean, on a forward multiple, it probably comes closer to the 7 level, whereas if you're looking at the other larger guys, you're looking at 11, 12 plus times. So you have to have a bit of a discount for it, not having that diversification. So they're very focused to supply chain. So if anything goes wrong there, it's going to be worse than the other guys. And you have to have a bit of a size discount because it's so small. But I think 7 times is too cheap.
So not as diversified as the others. Paul, would you be getting into?
It's interesting because it's gotten very little attention over the years, the stock, and I think it's partly because if you go back and look at their last 10 years of earnings, they seem to be having a problem when everyone else was doing well. So like in 05, they had a dip in earnings. So I think what happens here is when the market is very weak, like it was in 08 and 02, people are not interested in anything, let alone small caps. And then when the going is good, they want to see the earnings and see that reflected in rising share prices. So I think it's one of those stocks had very little attention, also limited liquidity. I think 65% of the shares in issue belong to inside parties, including a family trust, which has about 50%, which I think is Steven's, the Gottschalk, the CEO's family interest. So that's part of the reason why it doesn't attract that much attention. So for me, I'll also go with not hot, a bit too small. That's my general rule of thumb. But clearly, if they continue to deliver, it'll get some traction in the market.
So hot or not on Value Group for you, Daniel?
So there are one or two things about the stock that concern me. If you look at some of the financials, they have quite a bit of debt on the balance sheet. But this is asset-backed by the trucks. They have a truck leasing business, so I assume quite a bit of it is tied to that. So that's actually not as much of a concern as initially thought. If you look at their cash flow from operations before financing, so before debt raising or anything like that, for the last 2 years at least, they've had quite a significant negative cash flow because of a very high capex bill. Now that's fine if you're expanding, but their depreciation is around 70, 80 million, and the capex is closer to 250 million, which is a significant difference. And if you're expanding by that magnitude, you'd expect a bit more on the top line than 13%. So that would concern me to a degree, that the cash flow is getting tied up in that capex. Once again, if it is going back into the business at those return on equities of 20%, and that is going to come through, that's actually a good thing. So one to watch, but not only watch, because it is cheap. It is cheap, and I think for that price, a 7 times multiple, I don't think there's much downside.
So hot.
So I'd say hot.
Okay, so hot Value Group, one hot and one not.